Hello, and welcome to today's webinar, Unlocking Industrial Digitalization with RFID and BLE Solutions. I'm Bethany Dean, the Media and Communication Specialist here at AIM. And before we get into today's presentation, I first wanted to share a little bit about AIM. AIM is the Industry Association for Automatic Identification and Data Capture Technologies, and we serve as a hub for quality resources covering all types of barcode, RFID, and mobile computing information. We also foster new auto ID innovations that stimulate market growth. We encourage you to get involved. If you would like additional information, you can reach out to us at info@aimglobal.org. Also wanted to quickly review AIM's antitrust policy. It is the policy of AIM to conduct its operations in strict compliance with the antitrust laws. No AIM activity shall create even the appearance of a violation of the letter or spirit of the antitrust laws. And then just a few other housekeeping notes. All registrants are muted upon entering the webinar, but we still want you to participate. To send a question, you can select the Q&A icon at the bottom of the screen, and we'll get to as many questions as possible at the end of the presentation. Also, a recording of the webinar will be available in the coming days to those that have registered. And now I would like to introduce our guest speakers for today's presentation. I am joined today by Gino Olivato, who serves as the Managing Director for USA and Canada at Beontag. With over 22 years of experience in the industry, he combines deep technical expertise and strategic vision to drive innovation across retail, logistics, and smart mobility. Gino leads Beontag's North American operations, expanding local production and partnerships to strengthen the company's role as a global enabler of digital transformation and connected products. We are also joined by Mika Pilvenainen. Mika has been part of the RFID world since 2007 when he joined the R&D team at Convinex to focus on industrial applications. Over the years, he has held various roles and is currently Managing Director of Beontag Finland and Global Product Director, leading product management for Beontag's RFID, NFC, and BLE products. With a strong technical background and a customer-centric mindset, Mika values the wide reach of the RFID business. And Mika, I will let you take it over from here to start today's presentation.
Thank you, Bethany. Let me share my screen from here. Yeah, my name is Mika Pilvenainen. You did a very good job with my last name. It's not the easiest one, not even for the Finnish people where I'm calling from. So today we will cover our product portfolio, but I would say a bit on a higher level. We are not going into details of individual products here, but instead we will spend a bit more time on what I call tagging considerations here. Things that you should take into account when you're planning RFID or BLE projects. And we will also cover plenty of different use cases at the end to give you some idea of where and how our technology has been already used. But before that, I would like to hand over to Gino for a moment to explain a bit who we are.
Okay, thank you, Mika. First of all, thank you everybody for joining us this morning at my time to listen about Beontag and the products that we manufacture. Just to give you a nutshell background about us, I'd like to say about our two business units that we have globally. One of them on the right of you is the graphic label and materials that we call GLM. This is the labeling, pressure sensitive adhesives, special papers, and other graphic materials that we work worldwide. And on your left, you're going to see the Digital Transformation Enabler, what we call the DTE. This is where the RFID and IoT solutions land. And this is the business unit that we will be talking today. And also, we will start talking about a bit of our global footprint. That's what we're going to have in Beontag worldwide. We have 5 facilities that we produce the RFID technology. The biggest one we do is in Campo Mourão in Brazil. We have another in Tampere in Finland, Bologna in Italy, Guangzhou in China, and here in Dayton in USA. And giving you some numbers, what about we do at Beontag, we are more than 2,000 employees. We have more than 40 years of experience in this self-adhesive and give or take 12 years in RFID industry. We have product presence in 60 countries, 6 R&D centers, and 12 industrial facilities. So the idea here in a nutshell is just to give you the idea that Beontag is a global company, that we go from the self-adhesive until the end of the RFID production, passing through very diverse technologies like UHF, NFC, and the BLE that Mika will explore more in the next slides. Thank you, Mika.
Thank you, Gino. Now let's take a look on our product portfolio next, but before jumping into the actual slides, we have two polls prepared for you, and I'd like to start the first already here by asking that what is the primary industry that you work with? Just to get us some idea of what kind of an audience we have today. And you should be seeing a kind of a window, and you can pick one of these. I know some of you may work on several industries if you're a solution provider, but pick the one that you work most with currently. Automotive, manufacturing, rail, oil, waste, food, retail, post and parcel, or something else maybe. I will give you a few more seconds to answer the poll, and then Bethany, I think we will see the results on the screen once you close the poll. Let's take a look at that. Okay, so we have, let's say, manufacturing, and then other, whatever that is, seems to be driving the audience today. Most from, let's say, industrial space in any case, and I think it's a good fit for the content that we have prepared for you today. So let's jump to the products. First, technologies. Like Gino mentioned, these are the three technologies that we cover with our portfolio. RAIN RFID, also called UHF RFID, NFC, and BLE. And I would say all are very complementary technologies, suitable for different use cases and sometimes even combined into a single product for different purposes. And when we talk about unlocking industrial digitalization, like the webinar title was, we mainly talk about the RAIN and BLE technologies. Although we will see at the end that there are also use cases for NFC in this space. I will talk about the technologies and why would you choose one over another still a bit more in the later stage. The main markets that we focus on and what our products are designed to fit, let's say. Retail and mass market, high volume, very low cost, let's say cost-sensitive applications. We talk about billions of tags, not millions, like usually in the industrial space. Fashion and luxury, more consumer engagement-driven market. Then industries and logistics, which is the main target of today's presentation. And then more HF-based ticketing, hospitality, and access control. Now, although we build our product portfolio to be as cross-segment as possible, there are, of course, a lot of application-specific products also, such as retail being heavily cost-driven, which impacts material selection. In luxury, you might need more security to authenticate high-value items. Industries, you will need a robust tags that can take all the impacts. But then, on the other hand, the same hard tag could be used also in a retail shop to track raw cages. So from product-wise, we design our offering as a cross-segment as possible. But there is not a product that fits all of these, which results us having about 80 products in our public portfolio. And this is without any customer-specific designs that we also do a lot. There's thousands of products that we have delivered over the years. Now, nobody would remember 80 products from our portfolio, so that's why we have organized them into what we call product families. We don't have time to dive deep into all these families today, but on a high level, I'll introduce each one of these. Ironside, this is the product family for products that for the most harsh environments, where you may also expect some mechanical impacts and high stress. Steelware products also designed for on-metal surfaces, but a bit less robust, like IT assets, office equipment, assets like that. Silverline is our industrial-grade on-metal label family. A reason to choose product from heatwave family would be temperature. We have products withstanding up to 260 Celsius. I think that's 500 Fahrenheit. So high temperature would be a reason to go for a heatwave product family. Carrier is a family of washable tags for plastic surfaces, usually returnable transport items. Fairwave is more cost-engineered on metal label family. In industrial use cases, this could come into play, for example, with parts tracking in automotive or something short-term asset tracking where you don't need the most industrial-grade materials for the product. Viking is our industrial BLE family, and then we have some more, let's say, niche products under the design studio. Products designed for specific use case, like pulp labels, as an example. But today I wanted to dive one step deeper on the two of these, RFID and Viking families, which are, I would say, the most industrial grade product families out of these. And the rest we will take still a look on the use case slides. RFID, as said, this is the product family for the most harsh environments. I think RFID Classic was one of the very first RFID tags in the whole RFID hard tags, I mean, in the whole industry, like 20 years ago. And many people in the industry still recognize the name and kind of associate that to the robust hard tags. But the whole family has grown already into 9 different types of tags with different features. We have options for cable tie attachment, round tubes, dual frequency combining UHF and NFC technologies into one tag, metal plate for improved visual marking, as you see the RFID blade there at the bottom, and so on. And all these are IP68 tags, so they can withstand any outdoor environment and also some pretty heavy mechanical stress. Usually when you talk about industrial environment and mechanical impacts, the tagged assets, they tend to be metallic. And therefore also these products, they are optimized for metal surfaces. They also do work off metal. And if you look at our datasheet, you will find a read range on and off metal, but usually not so well than they work on metal surfaces because they are optimized for that and use the metal items as part of the antenna design. Then Viking is our product family for the industrial grade BLE beacons. And we recently introduced Viking Hybrid, which is the one at the bottom there, into this portfolio. And this combines BLE and RFID technologies into same product. There are 2 main data profiles for BLE in use, Google Eddystone and Apple iBeacon, and all these products can be configured to use either or even both if you so decide. Now, when we talk about BLE, battery life is a question that we always get. And it's also a very difficult one to answer because it really depends on the configuration and usage of a tag. How often do you transmit? What do you transmit? Do you transmit only Eddystone or iBeacon or both of them? Some applications, they ask for, let's say, 1 second interval for transmission if you really want to get a accurate positioning, for example. And then some applications, they use intervals of 20 seconds, that it's not so important to have information every second. And in theory, this means 20 times faster battery usage if you use 1 second instead of 20 seconds. So it really depends on how you configure the beacons to work. In general, we see a battery life everything in between 1 to 10 years with these products. So it depends on the settings as said. And also the battery selection. We have these products with different battery options for the better capacity. Now, what sets these tags apart from the other BLE tags in the market is that they are designed to fit industrial use cases with a very different kind of requirements, I would say, from mechanically demanding construction yards, for example, to roll cages that are then very challenging to tag from the attachment method point of view. And this hybrid that I mentioned, it was specifically designed for roll cages with a unique attachment where you don't need any tools. You just click the tag to the roll cage, and that's it, ready to use. There's of course capabilities to add several sensors here, vibration, time of flight, to measure distance and so on. But more often, I would say the BLE applications that we talk about, they are more asset tracking and locationing rather than sensing today. And then we also do have a COOPA and Wirepass compliant tags available if you are looking for those. So that was a very quick snapshot of our portfolio. And next, I would like to introduce some of the learnings that we have gained over the years, some tagging considerations, like I call them, for a successful RFID and BLE implementations. But first, I'd like to take an opportunity and launch the second poll of the day to learn a bit that what have been the challenges that you have faced in the past. If you have had a RFID project or BLE, it could be also BLE implementation, what has been the biggest challenge? Is it installation process, meaning the whole, let's say the whole system installation, not just a tag, tag attachment, read range, cost of the tags, lifetime or durability, or has it been related to IC memory or other, let's say, other IC features in general? And again, I think you have an option to choose one of these. Even if you would have several, you should pick the one that you have seen being the biggest challenge. And I will give you a few more seconds to answer. Then let's take a look on the results that we have. All right, cost of the tags, and then we have attachment, adhesion, installation process. Cost is always something that is raised up, and I think the industry in general we are already on a different cost level than we were 10 years ago, and I think the trend is to more and more affordable RFID tags, and especially with BLE, we see a good trend on the cost side. This is good. I think we will have a lot of good content for you to tackle these challenges that you listed here. We talked about our technologies already, but how do they differ? There are, of course, a lot of differences between them, and I'm not going to go through this whole table here, but I want us to focus more on the very last line here on this table. Why would you choose one technology over the other? NFC comes to play when you need to improve customer engagement, improve customer experience. You may have a high-value Gucci bag, and you want to make sure that your customers can easily authenticate that it really is a Gucci bag and not a Gucci bag with NFC tag. And it's easy. Customer just taps the tag and gets the information of the authenticity on their mobile phone. Very, let's say, user-friendly, which is always important when you talk about customer engagement. RAIN RFID we most commonly use in high-volume applications where reading speed is crucial, while NFC is usually read one by one. With RAIN, you can read hundreds of tags in a second. Retail, logistics, industries like that are heavy users of RAIN technology. And then BLE, It's adding, let's say, more features to a product. As an active technology, you can get read range up to 200 meters or even more, which means that you don't need that dense reader infrastructure to cover bigger area. You can also build very different kind of applications for locationing purposes. You can either locate tagged assets, or you can locate yourself or your mobile phone with a fixed beacon. Your phone can hear beacon 1, 2, and 3, and then locate yourself on a map, like what we are doing with some indoor navigationing systems that we have provided, especially on some airports. You can navigate indoor to your gate using this technology. All right. On high level tagging considerations that you need to do for industrial projects, do I need a hard tag or label? I think this is one of the very first questions that you need to ask yourself. When we talk about different tag form factors, mechanical stress, mechanical impacts, that's the most important factor that impacts the tag selection, I would say. If you could use a label, you would, because it's cheaper, it's easier to encode, it's faster to encode, fast to attach. You don't need mechanical screws, anything like that. But if there's mechanical impacts expected in the use case during the lifetime of a tag, then hard tag should really be considered for those applications. From customer point of view, the encoding process of hard tags could be one big topics to be solved, because labels you can encode, print with the RFID printers, but hard tags you really cannot. So you would need to encode them basically one by one at some point of the process, and one point could be our production. So we can also do the encoding and printing for you if that simplifies the process. When we talk about hard tags, the attachment method is one of the key considerations, and also one reason why we have so many products in our portfolio. These are some of the attachment methods that we have in use. Structural adhesives that's a whole another world, as there's tons of different ones. You don't want to, let's say, too hard adhesive. It could be more too fragile, break easily. We want to have a bit more flexible one that withstands more variation. And we can help to select the right one. But in general, epoxy type of adhesives, they're a good option for mechanical attachment when screws are not usable. Mechanical attachment is always, of course, recommended for any harsh environments. Embedding is something that we see more and more, and I think it's also a sign of maturity of this technology. Customers, they come to us that, hey, we need to have a RFID on this new item that we are about to design. Can you help us? How do we put RFID inside it? Instead of like 10 years ago, they came to us that, hey, guys, we designed and we manufactured this one item. Now we need to put RFID on this. How do we do that? So they think about the technology already in earlier stage, and we get more and more what we call source tagging. We tag items when they are produced. I mentioned Ironside family being IP68, but what does it mean? IP rate is also something that you want to consider for industrial use cases. You see industrial tag specifications, they always have a IP67, 68, or something like that. But if you want to have a tag that is fully sealed for dust and water, IP68, that's something you can then consider that you are safe in terms of water protection. But it's also very helpful for applications with different chemicals, oils, cleaning processes, and so on. IP68, it offers, let's say, enough protection for any outdoor environment. The standard requires IP68 product to be tested under 1 meter of water for more than half an hour. We test way more than that. several hours to make sure that they are really sealed for water immersion. What do we then need to take into account ourselves when we design products to achieve this? There's different considerations that we are doing, especially in the material selection. And some of these are very crucial. For example, the closed cell foam for on-metal labels. You don't want the on-metal label to be like a sponge that it would absorb all the water inside. It would kill RFID. So you need to choose materials that doesn't work like that. They don't absorb any liquid inside. And with hard tags, it comes down to the mechanics design and different methods of how tags are sealed, either with welding or gluing or some other way. Related to the water resistance, washing resistance is very important. And I want to emphasize that there's probably as many different washing processes as there are customers. And we have some indications on our product data sheets that what kind of washing our products can withstand. And we have certain standards we follow for both washing and peeling testing when we test the adhesion. But the key is to find the adhesive that adheres well enough on the surface that customers are using. And there's no adhesive that would be the best on all surface. That would make my life a lot easier, but unfortunately such doesn't exist. And even though we make a lot of testing to choose the materials that we have on our products, we still recommend you to do your own test at the final application. There's so many different variables that affect the adhesion that on-site testing is always recommended over any kind of a lab testing. You may have a different water temperature, cleaning chemicals in use, surface material, amount of water washing distance, how the pressure washing machine works. So many variables that we always recommend you to make your own tests to be safe. When we talk about industrial RFID, we need to talk about materials also. This can also be a bit obvious, but I wanted to highlight this as it's something we work daily basis. And it's also not always so obvious. I have a Lenovo laptop here with a plastic case, but right under the case, there's some metals again. You may have a metallic Apple laptop, and it's again very, very different in our perspective. The performance of a tag it's highly affected by the material the tag is attached on. And if you're tagging metallic assets, you will need a different tag than on a plastic one. And there's also RFID tags that work on any surface, and those are also very good options, especially if you have a lot of different kind of items that you want to tag. But if you start tagging, let's say, millions of items, then you may want to cost optimize and choose a tag for different kind of surfaces separately. Plastic surfaces, they often come with the washing requirements, and that's something to be also considered. It is also not so clear always to all customers which items would need an on-metal tag. Therefore, I wanted to raise some examples here. ESD bags, they often have metallic materials involved. They even look a bit like metallic, like in the picture here on the left. Carbon fiber as a material is a bit in between metal and plastic, and usually no on-metal tag would work better there. Tools, they often have some metallic reinforcements inside, even though they might look plastic outside. Liquids, it depends a lot. What material is the container? How much of a liquid do you have? Are there some metallized etiquettes on top of the bottle, for example? Sometimes you're good with the standard tag and you don't need a non-metal tag, but on metal, it quite often helps also with the liquid containers. And then electronics in general, PCBs, they are full of metals and require on-metal tag. Then a few words about the personalization. As mentioned earlier, hard tags, they can be a bit of a struggle to encode or visually mark at customer side. And this is why we do actually quite a lot of personalization for our industrial customers. We can encode tags with your own encoding scheme or using one of the standardized schemes that there are, like a GS1, for example. Quite often we also print customer branding on the tags or have them with the color that better fits the customers' items that they are tagging. Delivery format is also something that we customize for some of our customers. If you want to have, for example, a pair of tags to be encoded and delivered together, that's possible. For some customers, we even deliver non-RFID labels to go with the RFID for the documentation purposes. We also have some more industrial personalization options, such as visual marking using laser engraving, which is a very robust way to have visual marking on the product. And then we would jump into the use case part of our presentation. And as we learned already, there's no tag that would fit all the use cases. And you also want to, let's say, over-engineer a tag for the application to optimize costs. And in these use cases, I have included this kind of what I call tag selection graph on the right, indicating which features were important for the customer, what drove them to a certain tag in our portfolio. Usually these features, they are also cost related. So if you need all the features, it would mean a bit more expensive tag. So you want to optimize the price and performance balance. Let's put it this way. And I wanted to share several different kind of use cases with you, which means that we are not going to dive deep into any of them, but we are happy to have with Gino also after the webinar if you want to learn more on a specific use case. So just to give you an idea of what kind of use cases we already have, where our products are already in use. First, we have a company called Goodback, which is a Singaporean company tracking more than 5 million these kind of metallic containers that you see in the pictures on the left. Mainly to follow the inbound and outbound of containers as they lease these to their customers. Pretty, I would say, standard RFID use case as such. On the picture, we have the tag that they chose, which is our RSI Slim. And we also have it's not so well visible, but there's a barcode laser engraved on this tag. Why do we do that? It's not only a backup for RFID, but it's more to give different sites an option. They have more than 5,000 locations where they read these containers, and not every one of them use big quantity of containers. There might be a site that just handles one container a week, and they don't want to invest into any kind of infrastructure. So they can still keep using the old-fashioned barcode, go and read one by one, because reading one container with barcode, that's fine. You don't need automated processes for that. So having a matching data in a barcode as RFID, it gives you that flexibility. From feature standpoint, if you look at the right, everything but the printer and applicator compliance was considered as important for this project to be a successful one. Challenging environment with a lot of metals, heavy impacts, also quite limited space for the tag footprint, as you can see on the picture. Now, here I want to also emphasize the importance of selecting the right location for the tag. These are still made of plastic, and if you drive to it with a forklift, it's not going to be the forklift that gets the damages. So you want to choose a location where the tag would be as well protected as possible, when that is possible. It's not always, but when you can put a tag into a location that it would not get that much mechanical impacts, it's always recommended. This use case goes to healthcare, and with a bit smaller containers, let's put this way. Could also be any kind of industrial company handling similar raw materials. We know that COVID increased the need of efficient processes in healthcare, and Medicas is an Italian company, and they are using our silver line blade on metal labels to track the home-based oxygen bottles and ventilations. Some benefits that they gained, tagging all those equipment, it reduced the loading of a single van by 20 minutes. And of course, reduced the errors in tracking pretty much basically to zero because there was no human errors anymore seen. But 20 minutes per van, if you load, let's say, 10 vans a day, every day, the savings in labor would quite fast justify the RFID investment. And from the graph, we see that attachment method was important. They still tag gas cylinders, so you don't want to use screws there. So label was the way to go, even though they get washed every now and then. They did not really highlight the read range here, but that is something that at some level, I would say, of course, always applies to every project. This is a good use case regarding the robustness or example regarding the robustness of these tags. Here in Finland and also in Sweden, Switzerland, Argentina, Brazil, some other countries, for more than 10 years, we have been tagging train wagons with the RSI Classics. And if you think about the application, there's the vibration of a train, flying rocks there, the temperature changes. In Finland, it can be minus 30 Celsius during the winter. It can be even plus 30 during the summer, believe me. So there's a lot of temperature changes during the lifetime of a tag. And I still see the same tags here when I use the trains in Finland that have been there already for a decade. Rail companies, they have few reasons to use RFID. There's what they call washing streets. You drive a train through this kind of a washing machine. They automatically adjust based on the wagon type, based on this RFID tag, the ID of a wagon. Maintenance has access to wagon ID easily. It's always there. And then rail yard operations, you can optimize those with when reading the wagon IDs when they move in and out. Here we have one of the largest IT equipment suppliers in the world, and they wanted to tag the servers, switches, power supplies, other IT equipment that they sell. With IT assets, the tag footprint is very important. There's rarely any space on the front face of any item on a server rack. If you look at server rack, it's full of ventilations for air or buttons or whatever connectors. So there's really no space for tags. What we did with them is an embedded tag, which is located inside this kind of a ejector arm that you see on the picture. It's installed there at the very beginning of the process, so they can internally benefit from RFID tracking these items, but also enabling their customers with RFID, so that they don't need to call us that we got these items, now we want to have a RFID on these. There is an RFID already from the very first place. This is a good example of what we call a source tagging again, and also the indication of RFID being more mature technology. A few more. Denso, the inventor of QR code, is also using RFID with their IT asset tracking. They chose our silver line plate for identifying all kind of IT assets and office electronics, office equipment. I like this use case as we have some real numerical results here. The time that they took to perform audit was reduced from 64 to 6 hours. And I think this is, again, a good example, good numbers to base ROI calculations on. They didn't highlight the printer compliance, but this product is certainly compliant with RFID printers, but reason for this is that we actually print the products for them in our premises. The first component that gets attached on the Volvo car chassis during the production is our tag. Then it follows the car throughout all the electrolyte baths, drying ovens with more than 200 Celsius, and is actually left there on a car. And it's not just a dummy ID, but like Volvo themselves is saying, it's steering the whole production. Every car is different, and with RFID you get the flexibility. You know which car is now at the assembly point, what kind of a part should I install on this specific car. Every car can be a bit different when they come out from the production line. But it's also a good example of how robust RFID can be. You can imagine the cost of tag. If the tag doesn't work, and the whole production line stops because of that, and it would because it's relying on a tag, there's a cost. So reliability was really the key here for them to take RFID into use. And they have been also using this for years already. Ironset Flex was originally designed for this customer called Crystallites. They use several of our products today, but they also had a lot of items where they cannot mechanically attach any tags, but still needed a robust tag that can take all the mechanical hits. This is one of those industries that are running with a very tight timelines and logistics. You cannot miss an important device from shipment to a big artist, but you need to make sure that everything is there in a box when you ship it out to some concert, for example. And you want to make sure that you got all back that you shipped out. So we designed this robust hang tag for them with about 20 meters of a read range. Quite often the tag design is not only about the performance, but also the installation method. And for example, on these trusses that they use to build this kind of a show, how do you say it? The stage, I guess is the word. These trusses, you cannot make any holes due to the safety reasons. So you need to have some different way to install tag, and this is one of those. They also use this on other hard to tag items, like several other customers are also now doing. Tires are one of the very first items included in the DPP, Digital Product Passport in EU, and they need to have traceability in place. And RFID RAIN is the technology that enables this. We could have a separate session about the tire tags, but in a nutshell, there's a lot of benefits for tire manufacturers themselves, internal logistics and inventory, production efficiency, quality control. But what is really driving this is the life cycle traceability. And with that, also other parties in the whole process, the whole chain, they get the benefits. Fleet management of leased cars, for example, you can check that you got the same tires back that you leased out. Retreading companies, how many times a tire has been retreaded, as an example. But as you can see from the tag selection on the right, it's not an easy product to design. Surviving tire manufacturing and the whole life cycle of a tire, it demands mechanically a very specific design. This is of course not a printer compliant, but applicator compliance is super important. You cannot slow down a tire production, tire manufacturing for a millisecond to implement RFID there. So you need to design the process and applicators accordingly. Then we go a bit outside of our RAIN technology. Hilti is one of our NFC customers, and they are attaching our robust NFC labels on their power tools to give customers easy access to the product-related information. It can be a user manual or settings or possibility to report a broken tool, for example. One big benefit of this is to make the construction yards just more efficient. You don't need to go search for information, but you always have it at your hands. You just tap the tool with your mobile phone and you get the information that they want to share with you. Then we have two more for BLE. Let's say, if you tend to lose tools at your home, you can imagine what it is at the big construction yards with hundreds of people using the same tools, and even in worst case, even on a different construction yards. There's a lot of different studies about how much time is lost with the missing equipment, but some said 100 hours per worker in a year. You can do the math if how many hundreds of workers you have. It's a lot of wasted time. OneStop Pro is one of our BLE partners that has developed a solution to track the tools for construction companies specifically. And they rely on Viking Tough and Viking Micro Plus as their BLE trackers, which are then located by the gateways or even by a specifically designed OBD connectors on vehicles at the construction yard. So any time a vehicle passes a tool, it will store the last location of it. Obviously, you can then, of course, search with the tools with your mobile phones also. Very nice example of use case where BLE makes a lot of sense because the read distances and the flexibility with the infrastructure design. And then the last use case we have here is with the postal operator that is using our partner links to track the roll cages in their process. We developed this Viking hybrid using both RFID and BLE in the same tag for them. They already had a RFID infrastructure existing, so they can continue using that with this product, but now also with the BLE added on. What benefits BLE then brings here compared to RFID? Basically, every truck driver now has a reader in their pocket, meaning the company mobile phone, and all those devices are listening to the beacons all the time. With the GPS information of a phone, those mobile devices, they know where each and every container is. So if you drop, let's say you drop a wrong container, you automatically get an alarm that, hey, you dropped this container to the previous place, you should have left this one, but you're still carrying that with you. So it makes the processes much more efficient. Battery life is always asked, as I mentioned. These beacons, they are transmitting every 20 seconds, and with that, you get about 8 years of a lifetime. Here, one important factor for the successful installation was to design the attachment method to be specifically designed for these roll cages to make it as simple as fast and as fast as possible without any tools, as I mentioned also earlier. And before I lose my voice, this takes us to our Q&A just in time.
All right, thank you, Mika and Gino, for that presentation. We'll get started with the Q&A now. We'll start with some of the questions that we got through our registration page. So our first question today is, how do tag costs for BLE compare with tag costs for RAIN, UHF, or RFID?
I can comment quickly here. I think we are getting closer to RFID with the BLE. Of course, BLE is still way more expensive when it comes to tag cost. It's an active device, but that's an interesting movement. Let's put it this way: with the BLE beacon costs. So it's still more expensive than RFID, but when you go to a very robust industrial use cases, and you talk about dollars for tag, not cents, then we get closer between these technologies.
If I also can comment on this, when I started working with RFID, the tag used to cost $12 in 1998, and it was impossible to use. Now you're talking about technology that costs cents. It's spread out there, and we're seeing the evolution coming. That might be the BLE way of tracking things with an active mode. We are developing as Beontag some versions of BLE labels. So you have labels embedded with battery that will be a new form factor that, of course, will be a better price in the near future and will enable more applications. So in my point of view, we are in the part of the curve. If we were tracking something that worth it, we can use BLE. Otherwise, we have to wait a bit, but this bit is smaller and smaller because the BLE prices are getting more accessible every year.
All right, and then we'll get to our next question here. What advantages does BLE offer compared with RAIN UHF RFID?
I think we pretty much covered that topic already in the slides. You get a better, let's say, with the active technology, you get a much longer read distance, and combined with the flexibility of the infrastructure, I think that's the combination that generates the most benefits. And quite often there's locationing that you want to do with the BLE, and it's possible with RFID, but it's just way more cost effective with BLE when it comes to the infrastructure cost. And like I mentioned, the postal application, every driver there have a phone in a pocket and can hear all the beacons they have in a truck. So that's a good example of what would not really be available as such with the RFID, or you would need to think the infrastructure in a different way. Let's put it this way.
Right, and then our next question, can BTLE tag support a parent-child relationship? For example, assigning a tag to a pallet that can reference or associate all of the individual items on that pallet.
I think this comes down to the system design. You can, of course, if you have a BLE tag on a pallet, you know the pallet ID. You don't necessarily know what's on the pallet. But if your system is designed in a way that when you pack the pallet, you have some sort of a tracker, it could be RFID, it could be something else, that keeps track of what is put on this pallet. And then you have, we call this in RFID world, we call this a master tag, that you have a master tag for the pallet, and then you have individual tags on the items on a pallet. You don't necessarily need to be able to read all the individual tags, but as long as you are able to read the master tag, then you know that this is the pallet and your backend knows what should be on the pallet.
Right, and then our next question, how does ambient IoT compare with NFC, RFID, and BLE?
Good question. Usually ambient IoT is related to the Wiliot technology, which is a passive BLE-ish technology. Very interesting one, and we would be also happy to talk more about that after the webinar. I would say that it's a bit in between RFID and BLE today. That probably best describes how the technology works.
Right, and then our next question, where are the production sites located?
Well, as I mentioned before, we have 5 production sites for the RFID technology in Beontag. They are in Brazil, Finland, Italy, China, and the USA.
All right, and then our next question, Beontag is a one-stop shop, correct? You manufacture, print, and encode tags, correct? Do you have a minimum order requirement?
Well, when we talk about order, depending on the project, we do have a MOQ, a minimum order. But if you want to sample something, there is a path. If you want to do something with a smaller quantity, we have distributors that can bulk the minimum order and give you a smaller quantity if needed. So there's always a way to start, pilot, and increase the volume of the material you need from us.
Great. And then another question we have formal standards been established for using BLE and traceability applications?
That's a very good question, actually. There's no, let's say, organizations like GS1 type of encoding schemes used in BLE. I believe there will be over time, but today it's more case by case design. You have an idea of a beacon and then you build the service around that. But there's no like a global standardization like a GTIN or GIAI, this kind of encoding schemes in use for BLE. Not yet, at least.
All right. And then our last question for today, how successful are RFID tags for cold chain, such like temperature sensing / tracking of a product, for example?
I think for tracking of a product, it doesn't really differ from any other logistic change. So you can certainly use RFID there to track items within the cold chain. The temperature sensing, that's also interesting. We have products that enable measuring temperature. When you read the tag, you get the temperature. They're not loggers, so you don't get the temperature during the life or during the transportation, but you do get a temperature when you read the tag. And for some applications, that's enough, that you don't necessarily need the history data of a temperature, but having that at certain read points is enough, and there RFID can help you for sure.
All right, and I think that wraps up our Q&A session. And if you want to go to the next slide here, if you guys have any more questions for our speakers today, you can reach out through the information listed on the screen. If you have any questions or want to learn more about AIM, we have our information listed there as well. And I wanted to thank our presenters, Mika and Gino, for today's presentation, and thank you to our audience for the great questions.
Thank you, everybody, for having us.
Thank you for my behalf.